There's a moment when you realize you're always the one initiating. You're the one sending the first text, suggesting the plans, asking how her day went. She responds, sometimes enthusiastically, sometimes not. But you're always reaching first. You don't say anything about it, you don't even think about it consciously. But somewhere deep in your chest, something starts to shift. Something starts to pull back. And here's the part nobody talks about. That pulling back isn't anger. It's not bitterness. It's something much quieter, much more permanent. It's the sound of a man slowly walking away from a game he finally understands he can't win as it's currently being played. I know this moment because I lived it. Not once, but dozens of times across years of trying, hoping, believing that the next conversation, the next date, the next relationship would somehow feel different. That the mathematics would finally work in my favour. That the effort I put in would somehow equal the effort I received back. I was exactly where you are now, standing in that space between hope and exhaustion, between trying and surrendering. You think this is just your story. But for a growing number of men, it feels like a shared experience in 2024. The story of realizing that modern dating has become something our fathers never had to navigate. Something our grandfathers couldn't have imagined. A system that feels so misaligned that the smartest move isn't learning to play it better, it's learning to stop playing entirely. But here's what really happens when a man reaches this conclusion, and why it changes everything. The hidden truth is that most men don't suddenly decide dating is pointless. It's a gradual erosion that happens over months, sometimes years. You start noticing patterns you never wanted to see. The 78% of dating app users who report feeling emotionally, mentally, or physically exhausted. You become one of them without realizing it. You swipe through hundreds of profiles, craft thoughtful messages, invest time and energy into conversations that vanish without explanation. You start calculating the hours you spend on these platforms like it's a part-time job. Because for many people, that's exactly what it becomes. You match with someone, the conversation flows, you suggest meeting for coffee. She agrees, seems enthusiastic. Then the day of the date arrives and she cancels. Family emergency, work crisis. Suddenly feeling sick, you understand. These things happen. But when it happens 5 times in a row, 6 times, 10 times, you start to see the pattern. You start to realize that within modern app dynamics, you're often not being treated like a potential partner, your entertainment, a backup option, a way to pass time until something better appears on their screen. The mathematics are brutal and undeniable. For every 100 women you message, maybe 5 respond. For every 5 who respond, maybe 2 agree to meet. For every 2 who agree to meet, maybe 1 actually shows up. And for everyone who shows up, the chances of genuine connection, of mutual interest, of something real developing, are vanishingly small. You're not just competing with other men in your city. You're competing with every man in her phone. Every ex she still talks to, every fantasy relationship she's building in her head, based on social media highlights and romantic comedies. But the real breaking point isn't the rejection. Men can handle rejection. We've been handling it our entire lives. The breaking point is the realization that the game itself has changed. That dating has become something transactional, something performative, something that requires you to constantly audition for a role in someone else's life story, rather than build something mutual. And this is where everything changes. The turning point comes quietly, usually in a moment of stillness. You're sitting in your car after another failed date, or lying in bed at midnight after another conversation that went nowhere, or standing in your kitchen making coffee for one again. And you realize something fundamental has shifted inside you. The desire that used to drive you, that used to make you want to try again, reach out again, hope again, has simply evaporated. It's not dramatic. There's no anger, no declaration, no moment of throwing your phone across the room. It's more like a light switch being turned off. One day you care deeply about finding someone, about making connections, about building something meaningful. The next day you just don't. The silence in your apartment stops feeling like loneliness and starts feeling like peace. The absence of constant texting, constant planning, constant emotional management stops feeling like emptiness and starts feeling like freedom. You start noticing how much mental energy you are spending on dating, the constant analysis of her responses, the overthinking of your own messages, the planning and hoping and wondering, the emotional labor of trying to be interesting enough, successful enough, available enough to earn someone's attention. All of that energy suddenly becomes available for other things. your work improves, your friendships deepen, your hobbies return, you sleep better, you stop checking your phone every 5 minutes. People around you don't understand this transition. Your married friends tell you to keep trying. Your single friends share dating app success stories that feel like urban legends. Your family asks when you're going to settle down, but you can't explain to them what you've discovered. You can't tell them that you've tasted something better than the constant uncertainty of modern dating. You've tasted peace. But the truth was still waiting for you. The psychological breakdown happens gradually, then all at once. You start to recognize how much of yourself you were losing in the process of trying to find someone else. How you were editing your personality to be more appealing, hiding your interests to avoid judgment, minimizing your needs to avoid being seen as demanding. You were becoming a curated version of yourself, a dating profile made flesh, a performance designed to attract someone who might not even be worth attracting. You realize that modern dating rewards the wrong behaviors and punishes the right ones. Being authentic makes you boring. Being honest makes you too intense. Having standards makes you picky. Wanting genuine connection makes you clingy. Like many digital platforms, the system prioritizes engagement over long-term well-being. It's not designed to help you find love. It's designed to keep you participating. Many men feel like they're shouting into a void, sending carefully crafted messages that disappear into digital silence. The 47% who report being ignored entirely. You become one of them. You watch women you know complain about men not approaching them while those same women ignore every man who does approach them. You see the disconnect between what's said and what's done. Between the stated desire for good men and the actual reward system that favours games, manipulation and emotional unavailability. The cost becomes clear. Not just the financial cost of dates and apps and premium subscriptions. The emotional cost, the opportunity cost, the cost to your self-worth, your mental health, your belief in your own value. You start to understand why 28% of single men have stopped actively looking for romantic relationships, why 41% of men under 35 report taking breaks from dating lasting 6 months or longer. You're not alone in this realization. You're part of a quiet exodus that's happening everywhere but being talked about nowhere. And this is where the real revelation begins. The cost of returning becomes impossible to ignore. You've built something in the absence of dating chaos. Something precious and fragile and entirely yours. You wake up when you want to wake up. You eat what you want to eat. You spend your money on things that matter to you. Your weekend belongs to you. Your evening belongs to you. Your attention belongs to you. For the first time in years, maybe decades, you're not managing someone else's emotions, accommodating someone else's schedule, or walking on eggshells around someone else's moods. You've rediscovered silence. Not the lonely silence of rejection, but the peaceful silence of solitude, the silence where you can hear your own thoughts, your own desires, your own voice, the silence where you're not constantly wondering what she's thinking, what she wants, whether you've said the wrong thing or done the wrong thing. You've tasted freedom from the anxiety that comes with caring too much about someone who cares too little about you. The idea of going back starts to feel impossible, not because you're bitter or broken or afraid, because you've built something better. You've created a life that serves you instead of depleting you. A life where your worth isn't determined by whether someone swipes right or texts back or agrees to see you again. A life where your peace isn't constantly under threat from someone else's whims and moods and changing feelings. But here's what nobody prepared you for. The thing nobody prepared you for is how good the silence feels. Not the silence of rejection, but the silence of choice. The silence of a man who's finally stopped asking questions he already knows the answers to. You wake up on a Saturday morning and realize you haven't checked your phone in hours. Not because you're avoiding it, but because nothing on that screen matters more than the peace in your room. But here's what really breaks the system. You start seeing other men differently. The ones still in the game, still swiping, still hoping, still explaining to their friends why this time will be different. You watch them with something that isn't pity but isn't judgment either. It's recognition. You see yourself from 6 months ago, from a year ago, the version of you that believed effort would eventually equal reward, that persistence would eventually pay off, that good intentions would eventually be valued. You watch a friend text a woman who hasn't responded in 3 days. You watch him craft the perfect follow-up message, delete it, rewrite it, delete it again. You watch him ask for advice about what he did wrong, what he should say next, how long he should wait, and you realize something fundamental. He's asking the wrong questions. The question isn't what to text. The question is why he's still texting someone who's already given him his answer through silence. You don't say anything. Because you remember being him. You remember the hope that kept you reaching for women who kept pulling away. The optimism that interpreted every small response as a sign of growing interest. The way you could turn a simple thanks text into evidence that she was warming up to you. Now you see it differently. Every unanswered message is an answer. Every delayed response is communication. Every cancelled plan is information. The system isn't broken, it's working exactly as designed. You just finally learned how to read the data. And this changes everything about how you move through the world. You start noticing the men who haven't figured this out yet. The ones spending their Friday nights optimizing their dating profiles. The ones asking their female friends for advice about women who are clearly not interested. The ones convinced that the right combination of words, the right timing, the right approach will unlock the mystery of modern dating. You want to tell them what you've learned, but you know they wouldn't believe you. Because you wouldn't have believed it either when you were where they are now. The truth is too simple and too devastating. Many women today have more options than they can realistically process. Many men have fewer options than they need to feel valued. The mathematics create a system where selectivity and persistence are pushed to unhealthy extremes. Everyone loses in different ways, but men often feel it first and most quietly. But something else happens when you step outside this system. You rediscover what you actually want. Not what you think you should want, not what society tells you to want, not what your biology demands you want, what you actually want. And the answer surprises you. You want simplicity. You want peace. You want conversations that don't require strategic thinking. You want relationships that don't feel like negotiations. You want to be chosen clearly, enthusiastically, without reservation. You realize that most of your dating life was spent trying to convince women to want you, trying to prove your value, demonstrate your worth, earn their interest. You were auditioning for a role in their lives instead of interviewing them for a role in yours. The power dynamic was inverted from the beginning, and you never questioned it because everyone told you that's how it worked. Now you understand why it never felt right. A man is supposed to pursue, they said. A man is supposed to take initiative, they said. A man is supposed to handle rejection gracefully and keep trying, they said. But nobody told you that pursuit without reciprocation isn't romantic. It's exhausting. Nobody told you that initiative without response isn't leadership, it's performance. Nobody told you that handling endless rejection gracefully isn't strength. It's self-abandonment. You weren't failing at dating. You were succeeding at something that was never designed to serve you. And this realization changes how you see everything that came before. Every woman who ghosted you was doing you a favor. Every rejection was redirection. Every failed relationship was preparation for this moment of clarity. You thought you were losing at dating, but you were actually learning something more valuable. You were learning what you're not willing to accept anymore. The desperation is gone. Not because you don't want connection, but because you've tasted something better than desperate connection. You've tasted peace. You've tasted self-respect. You've tasted the quiet satisfaction of a life lived on your own terms. And once you taste that, everything else feels like settling. People don't understand this transition. Your married friends think you've given up. Your single friends think you're depressed. Your family thinks you're too picky. But you can't explain to them that you haven't lowered your standards. You've finally discovered what your standards actually are. But here's the paradox that changes everything. The moment you stop needing anyone's approval is the moment you become most worthy of it. The moment you stop chasing validation is the moment you start attracting respect. The moment you choose solitude over settling is the moment you understand what partnership could actually be. Not two incomplete people trying to complete each other, but two whole people choosing to build something together. You're not avoiding love. You're protecting the space where real love could grow. You're not running from commitment. You're refusing to commit to situations that don't serve you. You're not afraid of relationships. You're afraid of losing yourself in relationships that demand you become smaller to make someone else comfortable. You feared the silence once. Now it's the only voice that tells you the truth. The moment you stopped reaching, first was the moment you started reaching for yourself. That pulling back you felt in your chest wasn't you giving up on love. It was love finally giving up on what was never meant to serve you. You didn't fail at dating, you graduated from it. If you recognize this voice, you know where to find me.